Okay.
See if we can, I've been looking up different ways to use it more effectively. Cause it seems to collect whoever's there in here,
Yeah.
you know, so the suggestion in
That's
the
what we want to
community
sit
was.
over there now. Let's make sure it's all about the camera.
Yeah, oh, yeah, right.
All right, I'm opening the meeting is up and everybody can, I think we're live, 24 people. I need to let everybody in. Yes,
And then make me a co-host so we don't lose you,
yeah,
if we lose you.
Suffer again.
I know, I don't think I haven't had time for that.
Yeah, I meant to bring yogurt.
I have Reese's.
I have a half.
No,
Sorry,
no,
I learned.
as much as I would want that.
Do you see me?
I'm looking, it's,
I always
you're
think that's
usually
fine.
at
It
the
says
top.
select board meeting room. In the admit, am I in the admit, did I click on the wrong?
Okay, I'm just,
I might clicked on the wrong one. Let me
I
re-enter.
can't take that
No, it
right
says
now.
I'm in the meeting.
I don't, I'm not finding you on the list.
Doesn't say select board meeting. Here, let me send back in. Easy enough.
There's,
Okay, come on.
does anybody see Melissa on this list? I
It's not under
apologize.
my.
But it's select board. And when I go to S, I get Steve Schmidt. I don't see anything
it's
under
okay.
select board.
What's that?
Says should be coming in now.
I'm not seeing you, even trying to get in. Did I open it all up?
That's the one for 5 PM on, right? It's 11, 5 PM.
Is everybody else in the Concom meeting?
Yeah, I'm doing the select board one.
Yeah, I did the select board one too, right?
Sign it.
Okay, I can
No,
see
I'm
you
just
on
trying
my
to
app.
guess.
People from Concom are here and Melissa is not.
It doesn't show
Thank
it's
you.
me. There we go. I see people.
Okay, she's in now. That was the hold up.
Recording in progress.
Okay.
What's the problem?
I was taking a second. Me. Okay, I hear reverberation.
That's me. It's gonna
That's
be.
Everyone else is participating via Zoom. We don't have anybody here, anybody else at the town hall. So, just hold on, there's just a little feedback here.
There you go. This one on the computer. Yeah, there you go.
You're welcome. The first item on the agenda was an unanticipated item. We have received a letter of resignation from Miriam DeFont, who is chair of the Conservation Commission. So we will be reviewing that. And after that, the select board is going to be talking about possible amendments to the special town meeting warrant. And Donna McNichol is here this evening if we have any questions about items on the warrant. So the first item is this afternoon, the select board received Miriam DeFont's resignation letter, which was not anticipated. was a rather lengthy letter. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it's difficult timing, but I think we have a competent Conservation Commission, and Miriam has no interest in serving on it. So I want to thank Miriam for her service. She put in a tremendous amount of time working on both the regulations and the bylaw. And I will turn this over to other members of the select board if you have any comments about the resignation letter.
No, I too would like to thank her for all her work in putting in those two documents and the years of site visits and from giving out permits. It was, thank you, Mary.
I would concur. I'd say the same thing. To be honest, I have not read the letter. I have not had a chance to read it. I was out of town until a little while ago. So I can't comment on the letter particularly, but certainly for a career, I would say it's been very helpful to the town. I appreciate it.
So given that the Conservation Commission is meeting this evening without a chair, I think it's incumbent upon the board to either accept or not accept her resignation. So just so that it's clear about the leadership on the commission.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Miriam Different from the Conservation Commission.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Thank you, Sonia.
Stalker, aye.
Darrell, aye. The next order of business is to talk about any amendments to the warrant, to the articles on the warrant. And I know there's been a lot of discussion over the course of the last few days about the bylaw, and I know I went through it kind of with a fine-tooth comb and looked at all the comments made by Special Counsel McGregor, also by Miriam, and there are a couple of items, at least that I had highlighted, that I thought made sense to amend with the wetlands bylaw. So I don't know how you want to proceed, if you just want me to
Sure. Just
highlight what those are. Okay, and I know I have spoken with Donna McNichol about these. So if we go to section 8, and it is the first, second, I believe it's the third paragraph.
Rita?
That starts. Yes.
Excuse
Donna,
me
go
for
ahead.
interrupting, but I just want to be very clear in this discussion that we're not amending the warrant. You can't amend the warrant. What we're talking about is certain issues with the bylaw that it's been recommended by, I believe, the Conservation Commission, Smart Solar's attorney, as well as our attorney, McGregor's office, that there be certain amendments from the floor during the town meeting on the bylaw to clean up a few issues that it makes sense to get cleaned up. So I just want to be very clear on that distinction so people don't think that we're amending the warrant or the bylaw ourselves. These are going to be recommended amendments to the bylaw on the floor of town meeting to clean up certain concerns that the various council have had concerning the language.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So
Can the person on Zoom with just the letter K identify who they are, please? And the person with the name Rufo, please identify yourself.
I think K is Kathy Salvador.
Thank you. And Rufo, can you identify your full name, please?
Yes, it's Robert Foreman.
okay, so
Thank you.
So what the select board is talking about tonight is amendments that we might make to the bylaw. Propose amendments, right, on town meeting floor for then acceptance or rejection by town meeting. That terminology correct, Donna?
Yes.
Okay, so back to section 8, paragraph 3. This has been a paragraph that I think in the process of getting edited and different versions, you know, there was a big push right before the holidays to get this bylaw ready for the warrant. And in the process, I think there was some miscommunication. So what I'd like to propose is that, and I believe was accepted by the commission and understood by the commission, that we delete the second sentence beginning with the conditions imposed in any permit issued by the commission. I'll read the whole sentence. The conditions imposed in any permit issued by the commission may include a condition that certain land or portions thereof are not built upon or altered, filled or dredged, and that streams are not diverted, dammed, or otherwise disturbed, provided that such conditions may be included only with the consent of the applicant. So that we would remove that entirely. I believe this, all of those, you know, requirements concerning altered, filled, dredged are included elsewhere in the bylaw, and the issue concerning permission really had to do with conservation restrictions or easements, and that is addressed in the section 12 enforcement. And so the language in 11B security. So this this sentence had been recommended when Nathaniel Stevens of McGregor's office reviewed it. It had been accepted by the Conservation Commission, and for some reason, and it's not entirely clear to me, I tried to recreate it as I went back through all the volley of emails. It got put back in here, and that last phrase was added, which became a point of contention. I don't think we need this phrase at all. So I would ask that the select board vote this evening to offer an amendment on town meeting floor to delete that sentence entirely.
I will make the motion that we amend that section and delete that sentence on the floor.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
Any questions? I'll ask Donna, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I've reviewed the emails that have all gone around about this, and I think that there's 2 points to be made that I think all council probably agree with, although Attorney Brewer can certainly address it if she disagrees with me. I think the first one is that putting conditions on an order of conditions about future builds that should be the subject of a new notice of intent isn't appropriate. Those conditions go on. Yeah? Yes?
We can't, you're breaking up. You were breaking up. We weren't catching every word.
Okay, sorry. And is it better now?
It seems, yes, to be, yeah.
Okay. So I think the point that was made in some of McGregor's comments is that this phrase, even though it's been approved before, and that's not really the greatest argument in the world for why something should remain in a bylaw because it's been improved historically. It's an argument, and I don't want to diminish it, but it's not the best argument, is that if you're going to put conditions on about builds, future builds, those are really should be the subject of a new notice of intent so that it can be examined just like the Concom does. I think the second point about this is that we all know that you can't alter, fill, dredge, divert streams, or any of those
I hear
under
you,
the
Donna.
Wetland Protection Act.
Yeah,
It's
Donna,
part of
it's
the
not
law.
coming through.
I think we
Wonder if
lost
she could
her.
call in.
Hey, guys,
Can someone else turn them?
I can hear her perfectly. I'm not sure about the rest of it. Can I get nods from everyone else? I think it's just you guys.
I'm having trouble hearing them.
Hang on a sec.
Yeah,
Wait a
I
second,
also
Tom.
think it's your guys's in the downstairs room. It's probably your internet connection that's having issues.
Yep. Okay, I think I found it. Try it again, Donna. Sorry.
Thank you for your patience, Donna.
That's okay.
Donna?
So, I mean, the
Oh, good.
point is that a lot of part of this section is the law. It's both the law under the bylaw, it's the law under the Wetlands Act. The second thing is that if you're going to do additional work, you really need to get another notice of intent. You shouldn't just be sort of a condition that's put on one for any future thing that happens. I completely agree that this whole concept of approval of the applicant is not necessary when you're doing a notice of intent and order of conditions. The conditions are what the conditions are. Later on in this bylaw, it says that if a conservation restriction is going to be put on the land, then that does need consent. And that's because this section, implications in this section are very different. A CR is an interest in land that get recorded in the registry of deeds that is perpetual. And of course, the landowner has to not only sign the CR, but so therefore has to give consent. But for the commission to put on conditions that they think are applicable to the project in front of them that protect the wetlands and the resource areas is totally appropriate and doesn't require the applicant's consent. So these sections are talking about very different things. When McGregor talked about a taking, he was talking about a formal conservation restriction that would go on the property, signed by the applicant, that would be filed in the registry of deeds, which is an interest in their land. This is not under the Wetlands Act, under your bylaw protection. It's not a taking because you're acting within the references of a statute. So I think that these have all been conflated and sort of made into one ball when they're very different legal concepts and need to be separated out so people understand why these provisions are in there, how they're distinct, and why getting rid of this section with approval, but leaving in the CR with approval is appropriate. The end.
Okay, we're still having a little trouble here, Donna, hearing you.
Should we pull the speaker closer?
Yeah, that's not the problem. No big deal. Yeah.
I mean,
Pull the bottom part, and she just.
yeah. Maybe that'll help us here, I don't.
Okay, Donna, maybe you can just try again. If not, you don't need to repeat all of that. Do you agree that it makes sense for the select board to offer this as an amendment on town meeting
Yes.
floor?
Yes,
The elimination of this.
yes.
I saw, thank you. I saw Beth Wilson's hand. Beth, do you have a comment?
I think she was just.
Yeah, I was just in terms of
Okay.
process,
Sorry.
can people hear me?
Yeah.
Just in terms of process, tonight at our meeting, the commission can also vote to approve that amendment. But it sounds like, and I think it makes sense for the select board to come forward with a recommendation on Tuesday night. I guess with the idea that the commission has voted also to recommend it or support it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Okay.
would make sense.
Okay, thank you.
And that would be, the
Yeah, so,
commission could bring it forward if they prefer. it.
yeah, I mean, the commission can do it if you prefer, but we're happy to do it.
Yeah, no,
If you're-
I think
you're
it
voting.
sounds
We-
better coming from the select board.
Okay. So do I hear a motion? I heard the motion. It's been made and seconded. We've had discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Make peace on your life.
Stumper,
Farrell, aye. I know that we had, that the, police chief, had raised a question with the select board regarding section 12.
Right.
So section 12 is enforcement section, and I'm gonna just, I just wanna be sure I have the right paragraph, so it's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth paragraph of section 12, and I'll read what that paragraph says. Upon request of the commission, the Shutesbury Selectboard and Town Council or Commission's Council shall take legal action for enforcement under civil law. Upon request of the commission, the chief of police shall take legal action for enforcement under criminal law. Municipal boards and officers, including any police officer or other officer having police powers, shall have authority to assist the commission in enforcement. And so I believe the question is, was about the use of the word shall. The chief of police shall take legal action for enforcement, and that was under criminal law. So I know, Donna, you have taken a look at this, and there was some suggestion by McGregor about how to, perhaps how to amend this. But maybe, Donna, if you could describe for us what the issues are with that statement.
Yeah, I think that, I think what McGregor said in his email was that this was really would be considered directional, not mandatory. Shall normally means mandatory in statutes, but shall has been used to mean directional. And the reason that I think both McGregor and I are of the opinion that this should be directional and therefore maybe be changed to may is that you can't have a bylaw that insists a police chief take an action. Police chiefs have discretion to take action as the chief law enforcement officer of the municipality. And the bylaw can't say they must do something. You clearly want to give certain parties the authority to enforce the bylaw. You certainly want to give the police authority to assist the Conservation Commission, particularly if there's an issue on the property. But the idea that you can insist that the select board, town council, commission's council, or the police chief shall take an action on the recommendation of the Conservation Commission, that they don't have that authority.
So, is there a straightforward
Could I
way?
just mention that shall is also used in reference to the select board having to take action, so you'll wanna review both.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so I
there,
think that in the two places where shall shows up in paragraph 5 of section 12, you make an amendment to change it to may.
so just
Yeah.
change of that shall to may.
Right, in both places, in the end of the
Okay.
first line and almost at the end of the second line.
Okay. Okay, discussion?
I think that's a good idea.
Kristen, I know you had raised this. Is that, does that address your concerns?
Yes, it absolutely does. In accordance with the law, it would be superseded anyway, but I think that just having that clarity makes all the difference. My other question was, that any coordination of outside law enforcement agencies, I would like to go through, the chief of police.
Okay. All right, so do I hear a motion to change the wording in paragraph 5 of section 12 to read, upon request of the commission, the Shutesbury Select Board and Town Council or Commission's Council may take legal action for enforcement under civil law. Upon request of the commission, the chief of police may take legal action for enforcement under criminal law, and the balance of the paragraph remains the same. Yes.
Yeah.
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
I was concentrating reading the rest of the paragraph. I'm sorry.
Okay, so a motion has been made and seconded to change those two shalls in that paragraph to may. Any further discussion?
No.
Any questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Nikki, O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. That was all that I had on my list. I guess there was some question around chapter 40, section 21D. I believe we're adopting this at town meeting.
No, I got it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Never
take
mind.
that back.
Grace, did you have a comment? Yeah, I wanted to remind you, you guys need to amend the typo in the broadband committee's article where it says 2023 when I think it should say 2024. Because that didn't make it into the final posted version of the warrant. So we need to fix that at town meeting.
Is that on this issue, Grace, or?
That's fine. Yeah, it is.
I want to finish with this first, though.
Sorry,
with the
I
bylaw.
must have misunderstood. I thought you were asking if there were any more.
No,
That was all you
no,
had for amendments.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, I was talking about the bylaw.
Sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
Is it okay if I ask a couple questions about a couple of paragraphs?
Yeah, absolutely. And Mary, do you have a comment? Mary David, and Grace, your hand's still up.
Yes, I do. There was also in number 10, that in the definitions of the term agent, the request to remove the last sentence where it says upon written approval of the select board. That was also a recommendation.
Paragraph 10, which
So
one?
10,
So number
which sec-
10 definition in the definition of the term agent.
agent.
Yeah, so it should end at the end of Conservation Commission, and that last sentence should be deleted.
That was not McGregor's recommendation.
Okay, so that didn't come from, there wasn't a recommendation from, McGregor. So if that's something that the Conservation Commission can offer that as their own amendment.
I think Donna might want to speak to it. There was McGregor wrote quite a lengthy piece that the Concom, I believe, has to review at their meeting.
Okay, Donna, did you have a comment about that? So what we're referencing for those of you who, there's section 10, there are definitions.
Nope, I'm there.
You're there?
Yeah, I'm there. Two things. I also want to address what Kristen had said before, but let's deal with this because it's on the table. I think the issue with upon written approval of the Shutesbury Select Board is not basically applicable to the Concom hiring or appointing an agent. I think it's certainly applicable to the Concom bringing on alternate members, things of that, consultants without, funds, those kind of things. And so I think that the reason this is a little more political, this change, is because I don't think there's any doubt about it that the Concom has the right to appoint an agent for the commission. But agent is a very, very specific, narrow legal term. And I think that if they're appointing a lot of other people relative to the commission, then they may very well need the approval of the select board, depending on budget, depending on what the person's functions are. So, I'm not saying the Concom shouldn't, if they want to propose that at the, town meeting, that they shouldn't propose it if that's their desire. They certainly have the right to propose amendments to this. But, I think that I would just put after and if applicable upon written approval of the select board. And then we can make a determination depending on who they want to appoint, whether the select board should be approving that or whether the Concom has the authority to appoint that person on their own.
Becky, did you have a comment?
I was just recalling, Greg's comments that it's a matter of hiring, and our town policy requires select board approval for the appointment of anyone. And he was saying that if your town policy requires select board approval for an appointment, then that's what you need to do. That it's
Paid appointment, right?
on a paid appointment. Well, even on a non-paid appointment, but especially, so he was just saying that there's other potential statutes or policies that would play into that and would make, in our case, because of our our personnel policy, it would make it applicable that the select board would approve the hiring of an agent or another land use clerk. Donna's thinking.
No, I think that, I mean, I'm number one, I'm thinking about whether it be a volunteer or a paid position, because hiring clearly suggests a paid position. And I think that I don't disagree with what Greg's saying, but I certainly think there may be circumstances where the Conservation Commission could appoint somebody or relative to their duties, depending on whether it's within Shutesbury law. And so all I'm saying is that if you add that phrase, then it gives some flexibility. We know that they can't appoint alternate commissioners because that's a function of the select board. If in fact the town of Shutesbury hiring practices under the personnel policy says that the select board will essentially hire all clerks relative to relative to the various boards and commissions, then I think that the select board needs to approve. But if the commission has consulting fees and they want to hire a consultant to work on a project, is it the town's position that if they get the consulting fees and they're paid by the applicant and they're put in, that the consultant they hire has to be approved by the select board?
No, and in practice, the select board did not take that position when the Concom hired Patrick Garner, so.
Yeah, so that's why I think if you just make it flexible to add that little phrase that says, if applicable, the select board will approve. And then if we need to battle out when it is and isn't, we will. But it gives the flexibility and reflects the actuality of it.
Okay. All right, so let's why don't we do that? I mean, just to make it maybe simpler, if the select board is doing all of this from town meeting floor. Janice, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just a quick one. Thank you, Donna. I think you clarified it pretty well. And I think that's what we were worried about, is that if there's 53G money for an environmental consultant or other monies that the commission already has, that they want to hire a temporary consultant for some reason, that they have the ability to do that for that particular project with the expertise that's required for that. So I think that that's what you guys just agreed to. Certainly actual staff has to go through the select board, you know, like the land use clerk and stuff like that.
And I think that was what, at least when I read this, I thought it was about staff and not about the 53G consultants, because we never have exercised any kind of veto power over those.
Yep.
So thank you, Mary, for bringing it up. So do I hear a motion to amend the definition, the term, I'm going to read the paragraph as it would be amended or proposed to be amended. The term agent shall mean any conservation commissioner or municipal staff who is appointed agent by a majority vote of the Conservation Commission at a regularly scheduled meeting of the Conservation Commission, and upon and if applicable, upon written approval of the Shutesbury Selectboard. So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? If your hand's still up. Okay,
And then-
all those in,
Sorry, go ahead.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay.
Donna had something about what Kristen said.
Oh, yeah, Donna, you had something you wanted to follow up about, Kristen?
Right, Kristen was talking about, basically the bylaw providing that the police chief be informed and involved in any coordination with outside law enforcement. And I think that that could just very well be put in the, paragraph that we just changed shall and may as a fourth amendment that just says the police chief shall be informed and involved in any coordination with outside law enforcement. And I think that's important. I think that coordination of different law enforcement coming into communities and the police chief being informed is really it's really important to make sure that there's that coordination.
Okay, so we would be adding that sentence?
Right, we would amend section 12,
Yeah.
5th paragraph.
Yep.
To add at the end of that paragraph, the police chief shall be informed and involved in any coordination with outside law enforcement.
Okay. Okay, all right, so,
That one.
yeah, we just gonna add that, that's a new amendment, okay. So do I hear a motion, to add that paragraph? I guess we could just do the whole paragraph, right? Okay, so let's go back. That paragraph will now read, upon request of the commission, the Shutesbury Select Board and Town Council or Commission's Council may take legal action for enforcement under civil law. Upon request of the commission, the chief of police may take legal action for enforcement under criminal law. Municipal boards and officers, including any police officer or other officer having police powers, shall have authority to assist in enforcement. The police chief shall be informed and involved in any coordination with outside law enforcement.
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, could you read that last, the police chief shall
Be informed and involved in any coordination with outside law enforcement.
Any coordination with outside. Thank you.
Okay, so a motion's been made and seconded to that paragraph, edited. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Janice, where, what time is it? 5:50. Okay, go ahead, Janice.
I just had a quick question. Oops. I just had a quick question. Does that include the DEP if they get involved in enforcement action in town? I don't know one way or the other, but I just, that's usually the next step for a Concom is dealing with DEP.
I don't think it would. They're not law enforcement. They're regulatory enforcement. I
Okay.
think Kristen's really talking about environmental police, anybody that may come in with, enforcement, arresting power, that kind of thing. So she's kept in the loop.
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
Okay, so motion's been made and seconded to, make a recommendation for an amendment on town meeting floor for that new paragraph. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, I know, Melissa, you had a couple of.
Yeah, there's more of a question. I don't know if that, about necessarily an amendment, but it's a good question, Donna. Is on section 12, which is the enforcement. I'm sorry, it's not that section. I'll do this one first. So it is number 1, 2, the third one down, that any person who purchases, inherits, and otherwise acquires real estate upon which work has been done in violation or of the provisions of the bylaw or in violation of any permit issued pursuant to this bylaw shall forthwith comply with any such order or restore such land to its conditions prior to any such violation, provided, however, that no action, civil or criminal, shall be brought against such person unless commenced within 3 years following the date of acquisition of the real estate property by such person. So Donna, I have a question on that one.
Sure.
That is retroactively applying the bylaw to a piece of property with a new landowner, correct? I'm
No.
reading that correct?
No,
No.
it's a new landowner buying with a bylaw in effect that they have to abide by. So in
Okay,
other words, I inherit, my grandfather dredged a drainage ditch from the wetland to the town culvert to try and get rid of the wetland. And he got an enforcement order that said you have to get rid of the ditch and restore. And then he passes and I inherit the land. I have to do it. It runs with the land. If Concom doesn't do something about it, the town 3 years after I acquire the property, they can't force me to do it. So there's a statute of limitations on being able to force somebody. But the idea that violations like 21E violations, those kind of things, they really do run with the land. And it's sort of a buyer beware. If you purchase land and you aren't aware of Concom enforcement orders, building inspection orders, Board of Health orders, you're going to have to comply with them.
And so this is only when there's an order already on the land, not if just purchasing a land and something happens to get noticed with,
Well, if something gets noticed, then they'll come in and tell you to fix it.
So the answer is yes, but let's say I bought a piece of land and somebody had drained a vernal pool and there had been no orders that within the 3-year period, then the Conservation Commission can require me as a new owner to restore that vernal pool.
I'm not even sure they're limited to 3 years under those circumstances. Because there's no enforcement order and there's a wetlands violation on the property. That's an interesting question, and I would have to look to see if there was a 3-year statute of limitation on an enforcement of that. But I think the idea that for any of these things I talked about, 21E pollution, wetlands violations, building and code violations in a home, Board of Health issues in a house, just because it changes hands doesn't take away the town's authority to enforce the Wetlands Protection Act, 21E, hazardous waste cleanup. building code violations, Board of Health violations. I mean, the town still has the right to enforce those. And so the changing hands of the property doesn't take away that enforcement authority of the town.
And then the other question was about that the Concom shall have authority to enter the property. It doesn't, does that mean with this bylaw only when there's a permit issued, or they can enter anyone's property at any time?
I mean, that's a more complex and much more subtle legal issue.
Okay.
As McGregor said, and I think any attorney would agree, just because there's a bylaw says a right to enter, doesn't mean that you have blanket right to enter private property. We know under the case law that if the Concom entered without a search warrant or permission of the owner, and then later wanted to fine them or bring a criminal complaint on the enforcement order, the courts have basically said no. That's unacceptable. You got on the property without a search warrant, without a permission, so you can't. Certainly, so I think that under most circumstances, the court accepts that if somebody applies for a permit, they're essentially giving tacit approval for you to come on the land to inspect what you want to do, so that they can do a site visit. No different than the planning board or the zoning board going on for a site visit. But with the Board of Health, the Conservation Commission enforcement actions, then I think it's a much smarter way to proceed, that if you don't get permission from the property owner, then it takes a day to go to court, get an administrative search warrant, so that you're legally on the property under the authority of law. And I would strongly recommend that on those circumstances.
So are you suggesting we change that? We change?
No, I
any
think this is pretty standard language, but I think the Concom needs to be very circumspect on when they access the property. With permission of the owner, they're fine. Application of a permit, basically informing the owner they're going to do a site visit, I think they're fine. Enforcement orders, if the owner's in any way hesitant, go get a search warrant. Any kind of time an owner says you can't come on the property. If you really need to get on the property, you go get an administrative search warrant. They're not difficult to get. District court approves them the same day. And they just give you a lot more legal authority. And as I said, if you want to do an enforcement order through court later, if you don't have an administrative search warrant, a lot of the judges will not enforce the order. And that's just good practice.
Janice? Did you have a comment?
Yes, sorry, I would just add, I agree with what Donna is saying, and the Concoms are all lectured to, drummed into them that they're not to enter onto private property without permission. The exception is that once you have issued an order of conditions, one of the general conditions, I believe, is that they're allowed to go on the property to inspect the work, to make sure that the erosion control is working, to make sure that there isn't any unapproved actions of dredging or digging or whatever going on. So certainly by the time you get a permit, the commission does have approval to go on, and people realize that, and that's part of law. But you can't just go waltzing on to a property to check. You have to have owner permission, and I think we all realize that and abide by it.
Thanks, Janice. Thank you. Okay, so does that complete the bylaw? Any other questions?
Yeah. I just had a quick question about hopefully a quick question about section 7. And that is that section 7 itself, the first paragraph, any person filing a permit application, RDA or ANRAD with the commission shall provide a copy thereof at the same time, parentheses, by USPS certified mail and return receipt requested by person delivery in hand or any other means deemed acceptable to the commission in its regulations. To the Shutesbury Select Board, Planning Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, Board of Health, and Franklin County Building Inspector. My question is, and I guess it would basically boil down to what the rules are in the regulations. Is this really necessary to have all that stuff? Can this be done electronically, for example? In other words, it's gonna cost somebody a lot of money if they're applying for permits.
In general,
Yeah, to
Yeah.
deliver all these copies. Frankly, I'm not even sure anybody would even, half these boards won't even look at whatever it is.
And the certificate of mail is.
Well, they can save the money because they can hand deliver it, which would mean that they'd come, they'd apply the permit, and then they'd hand deliver it to each box in town hall. So I think they could save money that way. My understanding is, and I don't have, sorry, I don't, maybe I do have the statute in front of me. The statute doesn't include all of those boards, but it definitely includes the Board of Health, the Planning Board, and the Zoning Board, I believe. I gotta find the statute. Hang on, I got a pile. And I think that the reason, I don't know why the commission added those others, but I think it makes sense. I mean, the more boards that can at least know a project's going on, the more likely it is if there's issues with the land or the project and the boards are informed, the more likely it is that information will get to the Conservation Commission, so they're familiar with it. And I think you're right, Eric. Half the time, the boards aren't even gonna look at it, but if the building inspector's having trouble with, some structural issues or things going on the property, or the Board of Health has some issues with, something going on the property, knowing that they're also in front of the Conservation Mission trying to do another project, those public officers can coordinate and try and keep things on track, but in an effective way. So I don't think it's bad. I get what you're saying about it expense, but I think that they could hand deliver it and avoid.
I believe when the library submitted their application, it was sent to us electronically, so it must be in the regulations. Am I?
It might be in the
Beth, can you answer that question?
Yes, I believe it's in the regulations, and I certainly know that it's a typical thing in other towns for electronic copies to be sent to other boards.
And
Janice,
that's.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's one anyway.
How'd you get in?
It just did it automatically.
This is Janice. Is
Janice,
it
do you
okay
have a
for me?
copy?
Yeah, I'm looking at the copy, and so the certified mail receipt is the cheap way to go. We've added that. It used to be like $6 per first certified mail. This is like $1 or $2 for a whole list. So that was one way. We also allow it to be done electronically, and that's the way I think that the commission is planning on sending out this information to the different boards, is to send them an email saying, if you're interested, here is the link to the information. And all the plans and materials have been placed on the Conservation Commission's website for some time now, so people can always go there and get it. So I think that's how they've eliminated all that extra paper being destroyed and paid for mailings and everything else.
Thanks. I just want to alert everybody, it's 5:56. The Conservation Commission has a meeting beginning at 6 o'clock, which the select board is planning on joining. So I just want to move to any amendments not having to do with the bylaw. And if we want to continue any discussion about the wetlands bylaw, we could do that as part of the Conservation Commission meeting. So I believe there was an amendment that we were going to propose in the Article 5 to change for the MLP, and change it to fiscal year 24.
Yeah. On the second one, the first entry is already 24.
Okay. Okay, do I hear a motion to the select board to offer that amendment on town meeting floor to change the MLP article to reflect fiscal year 24? So,
Second,
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Make peace on your life.
Stover, aye.
Sarah, aye. Okay, so, Becky, is your hand up for some reason?
Well, you told me I couldn't ask my question.
Okay, well, you have,
Do I have a second?
who's starting the meeting? Who's starting the meeting?
Carrie.
Go ahead.
The certificate of mailing is not what is listed here, Janice. Is Janice still here?
Yes.
Or did they- Janice, in section 7, the second line, it says by USPS certified mail with return receipt requested. That's
okay.
different from certificate of mailing. So certificate, it was in there earlier. I read it earlier, but I think it needs to be added back in on town meeting floor if Concom wants it there. I know I would appreciate it being there because that's the cost saving way to mail.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the section, but doesn't it also say something about or other means available? And
other
in
means.
the regulations, I guess it is that it
Step
talks
to-
about the certificate of mailing. Let's see.
It does give the option for other means, which I think is what the electronic falls under.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that the problem with this is that the statute doesn't say electronic. Granted, it's totally outdated. And I know that, there's case law under other notice and delivery sections for planning boards and stuff where electronic delivery the courts have said it's not in the statute. It's not a proper delivery. So I get what Eric's saying. I get what you're all saying. It makes, of course, total sense for electronic delivery. We have it in the regulations. I think it probably protects the applicant from it, but I just want everybody to be clear that the statute hasn't caught up with your regulations, and electronic delivery under the statute, it's not available under the statute. And so it, put it in the regulations and put it in the bylaw, and I don't think any court would allow you to say you didn't get it appropriately if it's in your regulations and your bylaw.
Okay. All right, so it's 6 o'clock. Are we going to reconvene or just, how do we do this?
I will switch us over.
You just keep our meeting open?
Yeah. Becky, don't you do anything yet. I'm gonna switch
Okay,
now.
the select board is reconvening with the conservation committee.
Which is on a different Zoom
It's a
link.
different Zoom link.
So you'll need to go out and then go into the Conservation Commission meeting.
And do you want
Everybody
me at the Conservation Commission meeting?
So yes, please.
Okay.